Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 14.6. And in this patch we've had nerfs to Volibear, to Kane's interaction with items, and about the 27th nerf to Briar. We also had that removal of the Dorans Blade jungle interaction, which means most junglers like Graves that enjoyed buying that component on an early base can no longer do so. Basically, a lot of little things that will amount to maybe some big things. And so we will go over the best junglers overall, including the specific ones for low elo and high elo. But remember, as always, the best way to climb is to use the best junglers with the best jungling. And for that, you absolutely have to head to Virkayu.gg. I have a free jungle improvement resource as well as a dedicated program where we have jungle video courses, jungle coaching VOD libraries, weekly free video content seen nowhere else, as well as Q&As and patch note rundowns, as well as a private jungle Discord. And if there's one thing I'm good at, it's making junglers reach their goals, as we saw with the record number of people hitting them at the end of Season 13. If you want to climb faster than anyone you know, jungle diff every game you play, click the link below or head to Virkayu.gg. Right, first up we have Virkayu, who I still think is the best overall jungler in the game because of his diversity in itemization and the fact that his kit can suit any number of jungle situations that you might want to face. And coming off of a 2-week period where I coached literally every rank of Virkayu, it really shows that he can adapt to whatever MMR you're in, which means he can adapt to whatever game style you want to play. Quadrant ganking, full sequencing, a little bit of chill, a little bit of aggression. Once he gets going with that singular reset teamfight that you specifically optimize your game plan for, there's really no stopping his control. Now, at the same time, your mechanics can let you down, they do let you down, and you do have to understand what to do as soon as you take the soul of another untimely death from the enemy team. But really, his raw mechanics are not difficult. I put him as easy, but there is a medium level learning curve in terms of getting to that fluid motions of actually executing Virkayu. When it comes to jungling and executing your jungle game plan though, it's honestly about you making the right choice. If you decide to full clear when you should have done a red side into a gank, if you make the decision to invade when you should have just full cleared, you're really not going to see these results that you see high elo junglers making. He is not the fat controller, but the tempo controller. Next up we have here is the Volibear. I still think he has significant counterplay in certain matchups. Most people disagree, but then of course I watch them run into roots and, be useless. They lowered the max rank on the Q movement speed, which is great for me because, as I've said, I love the W max skillful expressive Volibear, not the unskilled Q max run at people and be a tank kind of Volibear. I really do hope they kind of focus on the W max as we go forward in time, but this Q nerf doesn't affect those people who enjoy builds like I do as much as it does the Q max crowd. However, despite that and the cooldown shift on his ultimate, the champion is still raw strong, raw strength, and raw LP gains if you are being active enough early and, just being a general good old-fashioned win condition jungler that knows how to snowball games. If you're gonna, AFK farm and wait until the 50th minute, you're gonna be less effective. But the bear is good and the bear is currently strong. Much like Kha'Zix, people always like to complain, but there's a reason he got a beautiful new prestige level skin. That's because he's very popular, but as I put in the previous video, he's just one of the best junglers that you can use to learn how to play an assassin. And when you're a damn good player of assassin junglers, he is still just as good, even better in fact. While his itemization is diverse, I'm going to reiterate the point, please understand where Edge of Night comes in those comps where you need to launch yourself a little bit into those champions that can CC you. The Edge of Night can really eliminate certain champions who will 100% die if they don't CC you. Likewise with Kha'Zix, as I explained in a coaching last night, the guy was too worried about early game getting fed. You don't need to do this. You can honestly chill a little bit with Kha'Zix. You can understand that it's about your gold and your experience, getting those itemization leads. Sometimes you're gonna have a chill early game, but you can have high econ still, and then you can come out when you've got 2 items and you kill everybody. Provided you are not wasting time, stifling your own gold income and experience econ by bad decisions. So, if you can be aggressive and get those ganks off, do it. Be opportunistic. If you can invade, do it. But don't int for ganks, don't int for invades. You do not need to force things as Kha'Zix. Relax, play the balanced game. You know your time will come. Next up we have Bel'Veth, and as you would have seen from the hated video, we all hate her. Greatly, in fact. But at the same time, the champion still allows a lot of good things to happen, whether you like to do damage and invades, or whether you like to macro and split push. However, the best Bel'Veth players are the ones who are also best junglers who can really maximize their kit, maximize the Lavender stacks as well, versus just, running at people dying, and then, oh look, now I gotta reset and it's over. Her Q mobility is easy to use as long as you understand enemy champions are allowed to use spells against you. You're not entitled to kill them, so just dodge them, and then you can kill them. The E damage reduction nerfs definitely hit her just a little bit, but honestly that's just for a bit of counterplay. Overall, a good Bel'Veth is largely using that to kill people, and yes, survive in certain moments, so you're not going to get away with psychopathic gameplay, but measured, intelligent gameplay, yeah, you're not going to notice, you'll be absolutely fine. Following this, we have Kayn, and now all the Kayn mains are outraged. What do you mean, Kayn? His win rate is 40,000% below what it was because Profane Hydra is ruined. It's not wrong, the Profane Hydra interaction with a Q is in fact ruined. But the thing is, I played some Ras last night just to get a sense of things, and I got 3 triple kills. And I went Eclipse. Yeah, I went Eclipse. If you're playing Ras and you want that burst up front, go for the Eclipse. If you're playing Blue Kayn and you actually just want to do more damage and get around the map again, hey, guess what? Ghostblade still exists. A lot of the win rate turmoil is in the fact that people are rushing Profane still, and they're not understanding that you can't use that active within your Q animation, which really locks you out of everything that Kayn wants to do. So don't even go that. Go back to Ghostblade, go to the Eclipse, and all the other items that Blue Kayn and Ras like to build, yeah, those are still good. This is also one of those perfect moments where you lean into your skill expression as Kayn. You're not getting anything for free. You have to show your mechanical skills at your decision making, how you balance farming, ganking, getting those orbs in that form, and then choosing the right form with the right itemizations. This is where the best Kayns are not really complaining at all, and only bad Kayns are. Yes, he can still be weaker, and I understand that good Kayns will say, look, he's a little weaker, which is true, but at the same time, the entire thing I'm trying to tell you, skill issue. Next up, we have Briar, which is the opposite of skill issue because there's no skill to be had from the on-rails point-and-click champion, which can now insect you for some particular reason by ward hopping. They keep adding weird things to this champion, and they keep refusing just to gut shit that makes her really irritating to face. The overall sustain nerf was wonderful, but it wasn't enough. Now they lose AD ratios, which means what? Well, if I'm building fighter, I do even less damage, I'm more likely to build more damage. The problem is the way I see it, the champion is just not that well designed overall in terms of what they want it to be, and thus I foresee a possible issue where she falls off so drastically high in high elo she becomes almost like the fighter Amumu, where even Warwick performs better in high elo than she does. Currently, that's not even an incorrect statement. Her win rate from gold to platinum is a huge drop off, and then from platinum to emerald again drops off, and then from emerald to diamond, off a cliff. We're already seeing this change where she's not that great in Diamond Plus Master Plus, and she still remains just as giga strong for the rest of the general population. That's why she's on this list, not for High Elo, not for Diamond Plus, definitely for those other ones, although I keep the Diamond Plus emblem because you can, still use her, she's not useless. Following this, we have the Evelynn, of course, having those nerfs, everyone was worried about it, and every Evelynn main who knows Evelynn said, guys, it's not going to change her, she will be absolutely fine. Guess what? She's absolutely fine. Sure, not as OP, but still extremely strong S+ tier and will have no issue carrying games provided you know what to do. Remember, you don't have that split push component, so you're way more focused on allowing your team to breathe and create those macro scenarios by never allowing the enemy team to set up properly and always ensuring you have those picks and those setups, and using her camouflage and her flanking ability to keep people off kilter, a little nervous, and hopefully running into jungles and just dying for free. And hey, look, she's been steadily climbing up the ranks again ever since those original nerfs a while back, and now she's back in the position where it's like, you know what? Eclipse, Sundered Sky, Sterak's, Black Cleaver, maybe even a Shojin build if you're feeling particularly spicy. These things are all good, and Vi has point-and-click abilities for your Blue Kayns, for your Briars, for your Evelynns, for your Viegos, for your Zeri, Smolders, and other ADCs. Really, her lockdown and the ability to be pretty damn decent in the early game for ganks and setting up those level 6 bikes. The itemization plus all of this is allowing her to do things that other junglers simply cannot, and it's pretty damn easy to do. So, with that, we will jump over to the A tier page, and yes, you see Kindred, and you're thinking, why is Kindred gone from one of the best junglers in the game with Viego, in your opinion, down to the A tier? That, my friends, is because of matchups. Volibear does very well into the Kindred when you have a good engage there, obviously, and the removal of the Dorans blade interaction does affect a certain snowballing component. And a lot of other junglers here don't really mind playing against the Kindred in a lot of ways, but let me reassure you, Kindred is still an S tier capable jungler with the right mechanical hands, so they're only here because that isn't always the case. No offense. Following this, we have Rek'Sai, whose play rate is, once again dropping, but whose win rate is once again rising. They have fixed that little bug on the W, so that should work again, hopefully. And while the build path is not really that exciting, the removal of mythics hasn't really lightened up some champions and it's become more boring, but Rek'Sai can build your Eclipse and your Stridebreaker, your Sundered Sky, your Black Cleaver, your Sterak, and with her dominance returning to the early game fold, does have the ability to shut down a lot of junglers that you're seeing on this list. But still, while her late game, the AoE knockup, the healing, all of this is wonderful in terms of keeping her a bit more relevant as the game goes on, you're still looking to play high tempo. Do not play low tempo Rek'Sai. Next up, we have Master Yi, who again, is strong, his data's good, but when I face Master Yi, it really feels dare I say, a little bit balanced. Now, I still think the Meditate is one of the most ridiculous abilities in the game, but the fact is, back in the day when you saw Mercy against you, sometimes you're like, oh great, here we go again. Or it was funnel and you're thinking, why didn't we dodge this game? Because someone should have dodged this game. Now it just feels like if I jungle properly and I shut him down, I'm not going to have an issue. And if I let him run away and not do anything, then he will be the issue. So I do feel like he's in a strong sort of balanced state, and honestly, that's kind of refreshing. Next up, we have Karthus, who is also in that kind of state, but he's really looking good. The play rate is low. I like him here because I think he does super well when the Karthus is a super good player. But in your practice tool time, get those clears nice and good, go follow Shapeshift, make sure you're getting it nice and smooth. But Karthus, while he does have that press R button, which is frustrating, Karthus is so much more about actually how to jungle and not just full clearing and pressing R. You got a lot of dead time to use. If you don't know how to use dead time between your clears, then you're not going to be good at this champion. I always feel like I should have a tank on the tier list, but tanks in the jungle have just not been that great for many years. We obviously have the Volibear Sharp and the Sejuanis, here before they get gutted. We obviously have sometimes the Ramises and the Zacs and the Nunus, but really a lot of the time the meta is defined by the regular champions you see from patch to patch. That being said, Zac is a tank and Zac is good in the jungle. Enjoy yourselves. Next up, we have Shaco because under the radar, his win rate and play rate have creeped up and got into pretty solid levels. Most Shaco players are not very good at actually jungling, they're just good at being tricksy hobbitses. But the good Shacos, the good junglers, understand the raw pressure you can exert that almost causes a mental meltdown of the enemy jungler. I covered one of these on the gameplay channel last year. It was exquisitely beautiful and painful to watch. You watch the Shaco make these beautiful reads of tracking and invades, and the enemy jungler's entire life hopes just dwindle around him. That's what you really want to do on a game-to-game basis. Alright, next up we have Brand Jungle, and I'd like to communicate in a way that Brand Jungle mains can understand what I'm saying. Following this, we have the Ivern. Low play rate, but still super obnoxious. People just don't like to play this kind of style, but the champion is inherently strong and really does better than most other champions that you could put in this final slot in terms of effectiveness, impacting games, and obviously they just buffed crit a little bit. ADCs are complaining they don't see it, but it's there. So if you're Ivern and you get a fed ADC, you know what to do. Next up, we have the low elo page, and obviously, did you expect Brian not to be on the top? Master, Volibaba, Chimpanzee Gaming, Ramus, Lilia still good here, Nocturne, and of course the Warwick. I took the Jax out because the Nocturne will do this a little easier and a little better, but the Warwick is obviously looking pretty damn strong in this MMR range. Basically, you can go with other things like Kanes and Dianas, you can use Viegos, you can use Vi's. The ones on your screen now just don't require a lot of forethought and thinking. You can focus on your jungling, leverage particular skills that you want to get better at, and you will come out in gold becoming a better jungler. Whereas if you learn the Viegos and those other champions, you'll stay in silver a little bit longer as you come to grips with those champions and the jungle, but then obviously you'll be better set for gold. So it's just depending on what exactly you want to accomplish. Do you just really want to focus on your jungling right now and choose a main later on? I always advise that as the best way to go, but you have your fun. These are the best ones for low MMR. For high MMR, if you want to have fun, well, there's a list of about 25 junglers you could be using. These are the ones that are performing the best. Talia, really Astro strong, could put her at the top, honestly, but a lot of plays, even in high elo, don't really use her properly mechanically. And Kha'Zix is kind of the one I really omit here. He's doing really well also. The thing is, the Graves has just fallen off the map because he was so reliant on all of these systems in place. They're finally removing these systems, and it's affecting him. You know, the Dorans Blade Rush, you'll notice some of the win rates on some of these junglers go down a little bit, which is great, but at the same time, some junglers were a little bit too reliant on it. And I can also take a moment to mention that Diana doing very well overall in terms of play rate. Win rate isn't spiking, but I do think she's pretty damn solid. People are kind of figuring out the best cadence for itemization. Gragas did get nerfed, but that was mostly a top laner nerf. In jungle, he's not going to notice that as much, and he's still performing pretty well in high elo. Rex are obviously dominating this particular MMR range also. A lot of different choices you can go with here. It's about your matchups, it's about your skill and your champions, but as always, player skill will be the biggest issue, so no matter what jungler you pick, ban the one you hate the most, ban the one that counters you the most, and off to the races you go to climb as high as possible. And if you actually want to 3 times your climbing rate, click this video. It does the trick.